He opened the door expecting dust, maybe a sand rat. Instead, he got 4 pairs of eyes staring up, 3 wide and hungry, and 1 tired. The alien woman didn't look weak. She looked resigned. Her skin had a sheen like cooled metal under firelight, half her horns were chipped, and her cloak barely clung to her shoulders. She whispered the words slowly, syllable by syllable, in shaky standard. "Just one night. I offer myself. Feed my children. Please." Now, most guys stationed on this forsaken outpost hadn't been touched in months. Maybe years. So yes, his brain heard offer and short-circuited. He blinked hard, cleared his throat like a man dodging a sexy landmine. Of course. I mean, I've got soup. Not like that kind of soup. Just actual soup." Her silence was either cultural or judgmental. He moved aside. The kids looked like shadows made of ribs. They shuffled in. She followed after a pause, brushing past him with a warmth that made him sweat under the collar of his scratchy surplus-issued shirt. He locked the door behind them, because border storms didn't ask for permission. And also, possibly, to avoid accidental adoption by more starving alien women. He ladled stew into bowls like it was holy. The kids inhaled it like a miracle. She took hers slower, eyes on his every movement. Not suspicious, just attentive. The kind of attentiveness that made a man question if he had spinach in his teeth. Or if he was being evaluated as breeding stock. "So," he ventured, trying to sound casual, "when you said offer, that's figurative, right?" She nodded solemnly. Then added, "In my culture, one who offers herself to save her kin surrenders to the provider." "Entirely." He dropped the ladle. "You mean like gratitude?" "No," she said flatly. "Like ownership. Bond. Flesh and law. You feed us, I am yours. You did not claim, but you opened your door. That is claiming enough." He laughed nervously. "That's very poetic. But I just gave you soup." She tilted her head, expression unreadable. "And now I must give you everything." One of the kids burped so loud it echoed off the tin roof. He took it as divine interruption. "Let's just get you guys warm for now." She watched him bring blankets, arrange cushions, find them socks that were mismatched but clean. When he gently tucked a sleeping child under an old quilt, she exhaled like it physically hurt her. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Because you asked?" She blinked slowly. "Where I'm from, asking is seen as weakness. And weakness is punished. When I begged before, I was beaten. Or taken. You only gave." He rubbed the back of his neck. "I'm human. We do weird stuff. Like empathy." She stood. Not tall, not menacing, but with a kind of heavy dignity. She walked over, stopping inches away, and looked up at him with those strange eyes that glowed faintly when wet. "You do not understand what you've done. I will never leave. I will obey. I will bear. I will protect. You have taken me by not taking me." He stared, heart thudding in a mix of confusion and primal panic. "Wait, this is about soup, right?" "Not soup." Her lips twitched. "A smile? A smirk? You warmed my children. You let me in. In our tongue, that phrase has one meaning. You let me in." He sighed. "Figures. But," she added softer now, "I will not force my bond. I will sleep at your door if I must. And I will defend it from all who threaten." He looked around his shack. One room. One bed. One barely working generator. A rickety roof and a pantry half full. A simple life built on silence and stubbornness. Now it echoed with small snores and alien breath. He had no idea how to raise alien kids. He could barely keep his plants alive. But some part of him, probably the broken, lonely part, looked at her and thought, this might be less weird than dating a human on Earth. And maybe, just maybe, fate worked in idiotic, absurd ways. Like how one night of soup had apparently made him a husband in 3-star systems. "Okay," he said slowly. You don't have to sleep at the door. You can take the bed. Her eyes widened. I'll take the floor, he clarified, holding up both hands. Unless that means something too, she considered. Only if you sleep naked under a red moon. He looked at the dusty, off-white bulb overhead. Cool. No moons tonight. She chuckled softly, and the sound was like gravel melting. He realized then, this wasn't just about food, or shelter, or custom. This was survival in its oldest form. A woman protecting her cubs. A man doing what felt right, even if the universe wrote footnotes in alien law about it. He didn't know what tomorrow held. But tonight? He let them in. And somehow, he suspected that would be the last peaceful night of his life. But maybe, not the worst. She ate with slow, guarded bites, her movements robotic. Her children, 3 lean bundles of fur and bone, devoured the nutrient paste like it was a feast. He tried not to stare. The translator chip clicked inside his ear as she murmured thanks in her native tongue. Then, after a long silence, she looked up and whispered, "Where shall I serve?" He blinked. "What?" She gestured to herself, then knelt again, more formally this time. "You accepted the offer. My body is yours for the dark cycle. That was the agreement." He coughed so hard he nearly sprayed his synth coffee. "Wait, what? No! I thought you meant food, not, look, I was just helping." She blinked. "You fed my young. You sheltered our bodies. You made the fire warm. And I also have pants on," he added, hands raised like she was a wild animal about to pounce. The kids stared up at him with glowy-eyed confusion, the smallest one licking the nutrient residue off his tray. He could almost feel the cultural chasm yawning beneath him. Back on Earth, the worst misunderstanding he'd had was thinking someone wanted to date when they just needed help moving. Here? Apparently offering leftovers was the equivalent of a marriage proposal. She shifted uncomfortably. "Do I displease?" "No! That's not, look. Where I'm from, that's not what feeding someone means. That's just being human." She tilted her head. "You are always like this? Kind without claim?" "Pretty much. Unless I'm dating. Then I'm selectively dumb and emotionally unavailable." That earned him a confused flick of her ears. "Your mating customs are broken," he sighed. "You're not wrong." She glanced at the door, ashamed. "Then I have failed. The price was not accepted. We must leave before honor degrades." "No one's leaving. Sit down. Eat more. No strings, no claims. I'm not trading soup for sex." She sat, hesitant. "Then, are we to die indebted?" "Lady," he muttered, pouring more paste onto the tray. "You're not indebted. You're hungry. And I've got rations expiring anyway. Think of this as me saving resources. Very heroic." One of the kids climbed into his lap without asking, curling like a cat. The other 2 took up residence under the table. He froze. This normal?" She nodded. "You are the safe thing now. They cling to safety." "Right," he said, patting the furry back. "Guess I'm a big, warm security blanket." That night, he gave them all his bed and curled up in the recliner. Halfway through the night, he woke to find her perched awkwardly in the corner, watching him like an artifact that moved. "You okay? I was making sure you wouldn't vanish," she said simply. "Lady, I'm not that dramatic." She crept closer on all fours. "Then why do I feel fear?" "Because trust doesn't come cheap," he said, rubbing his eyes. "But you can build it slow. No one's rushing anything here. Not me. Not you." Silence again. Then she whispered, "What is your name?" "Jace." "I am Renali." "Nice to meet you, Renali. You and your mini gremlins." She smiled faintly. It wasn't perfect. It was the kind of smile people wear when they don't quite know how, but it cracked through something tight in his chest. "They need not fear hunger tonight," she murmured, settling beside the recliner. "I offer no flesh. Only gratitude." "Good," he said, already drifting back off. Because your claws are sharp, and I snore. The smallest child, still nestled against his leg, purred. In the following days, they didn't leave. She didn't offer herself again. Instead, she washed the food trays, fixed a broken pipe in the back, sorted his scattered gear. She repaired his comms dish like it was instinct. And the kids? They turned his camp into a jungle gym. They napped in his boots. They used his emergency blanket like a royal cape. Do they always shed this much? He asked once, plucking a fine layer of hair off his couch. It means they accept you, Renali said. You are their territory now. Oh good. I've been claimed by tiny, fuzzy squatters. She tilted her head. You jest, but such claims are sacred. He scratched his neck. Guess I'd better not disappoint then. The power flickered. She reached for a tool instinctively. He caught her wrist gently. You don't have to fix everything. I must. Why? Because in my people's law, an unbalanced debt destroys the soul. He looked at her, long and quiet. Okay. Then consider this. If I do something kind, and you do something kind back, and we keep taking turns, maybe the debt balances itself out. She frowned. That is not the way. Maybe it's a new way. She stared at him like he'd said the stars could be picked like berries. Then, softly, this is dangerous thinking. Dangerous? Nah. Revolutionary, maybe. And then, for the first time, she laughed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't perfect. But it was real. And it made the whole freezing border world feel warmer than it had since the day he was stationed here. They didn't touch. They didn't talk about that night. But something shifted. Like a fuse was lit. And the burn had only just begun. The morning hit with a slap of cold air, and the smell of roasted roots, which somehow her little ones had managed to scavenge and burn halfway edible. He sat up shirtless, blanket around his waist, and blinked at the chaos of children rearranging his emergency rations like seasoned raiders. The smallest one held up a broken solar fork like a prize, shouting something triumphant in a dialect that probably translated to, "We now own this house." The mother crouched beside the heat lamp, trying to reattach a bandage to her own arm with the sort of delicate patience usually reserved for bomb disposal. Her expression was unreadable, but not hostile. More like embarrassed she hadn't vanished into the night like a proper tragic figure. He handed her a real med patch and said nothing. She slapped it on with a grunt, then finally spoke. I meant it last night. My body for shelter. I don't want you dishonored. You already fed my heater, he said flatly, pouring a cup of caffeine sludge. I should be paying you. Her look held 3 layers of confusion. He clarified. I didn't take you in for that. You said one night. You and the kids are warm now. That's the whole deal. She stared. You don't want me. He blew on the cup. I didn't say that. I said I didn't buy you. Her lips parted, but it wasn't anger. Not yet. Just sheer cultural malfunction. On Cauldron Moons, if a female offers herself and the male accepts shelter without betting, her clan shames her. It means she's unworthy even as trade. And here, he replied, we call that not being a bastard. One of the kids threw a ration brick at the ceiling and cheered when it stuck. He ignored it. She didn't. She rounded on them with the bark of a battle officer, and they scrambled to sit, hands folded, like temple initiates. She turned back, breathing hard, then flinched when he handed her a piece of fruit. This is how you dominate? She asked, dead serious. I offer potassium. Silence. Then she laughed. Actually laughed. Loud, sharp, a burst of breath that startled even her kids. He grinned. See? You're not just trade. You're a mom. A loud one. She took the fruit and muttered. You are strange. He shrugged. You're the one who knocked on a human's door. She stood awkwardly, unsure whether she was free to sit again. Her tail kept curling as if confused about who it was supposed to threaten. He gestured to the only other chair, then realized he didn't own another chair. She sat anyway, legs folded like she was ready to spring into combat. I'm Tyvan, he said. You? Erasukathel of the Cracked Moon Triad. Blood-claimed widow. Three-bearer. He blinked. I'm just Tyvan. I know. Your wall code said Tyvan, Customs Post 9. He stared. You read Terran? Little. Enough. Your door was unlocked. It was broken, he admitted. Didn't expect anyone but sand lice. She tilted her head. So you expected lice, not people? I've met fewer lice with knives. Her expression twitched. That is a compliment, yes? He sipped. It's better than being lice. She relaxed barely. The tension in her shoulders was war-born, not hunger-born. She didn't tremble. She coiled constantly, like a spring taught to hold. One of the kids crept up and poked Tyvan's boot. Is this food? Not anymore, he said. The kid licked it anyway. Era lunged to stop him, mortified. Tyvan waved it off. Kid's got guts. Kid's got worms, she hissed. If he eats your boot, they might win. He laughed. Fine. I'll disinfect his teeth later. That got her again, a reluctant snort this time buried in her hands. He leaned forward. You could leave. No one's making you stay. She looked up sharply. But I am yours. Because I gave you soup? No. Because you saw me. You saw us. You let us inside. That's what doors are for. No, she said slowly. That's what kindness is for. That's rarer. Tyvan scratched his chin. So what now? You bind yourself forever to some lonely border post schmuck because I didn't let your kids freeze? She straightened. You bound me when you gave without taking. He groaned. You guys really gotta get better lawyers. Her gaze softened. You don't understand what that means to us. We hide our young because we expect the worst. You looked at mine and saw children, not leverage. I saw hungry kids. Loud, hungry kids. And you let us in anyway. That's a maiden claim on 5 worlds. He dropped his head to the table. Do I need to sign something? Or petition the galaxy to revoke it? Too late. My people already marked the coordinates. They'll know I'm safe. And taken. Tyvan raised his head. You dropped a tracker? Not me, she said. My eldest. Stuffed it in your ceiling vent while you were asleep. Tyvan looked up. There was a blinking light. You're serious? She nodded. You tracked me. Her smile was almost shy. My children do not gamble with safe places. Tyvan sighed. I think your kid just filed the worst marriage license in history. Then you are stuck with me. And them. He looked over. The youngest was licking the boot again. Tyvan groaned. Fine. But I'm not doing diapers. Era leaned forward. They're past weaning. That's not the issue. She frowned. He whispered. I have a gag reflex. She grinned. Then I will train them well. He pointed at her. That sounded very threatening. She laughed again. You humans. Always so dramatic about survival. Lady, I was just stationed here for the peace. You got me instead. Same thing, really. She paused. You don't want to send us away? No. I want you fed, warm, and mildly less chaotic. Her eyes burned with something deeper than hunger. Then I offer myself again. Not for food. For future. He stared. You really like your metaphors. She said nothing. Then, just as his mug ran dry, she added, But next time, maybe, take me properly. Like you mean it. His cup dropped. Somewhere in the vent, the tracker blinked like a smug chaperone. She stirred beside him again, still awkward about the mattress, which she now claimed her scent, whatever that meant in her culture. Her children had long since nested in the spare room, tucked into blankets like burritos, humming in their sleep like overfed engines. And she remained pressed against him, one leg somehow always ending up wrapped around his like a vine with abandonment issues. So, you understand you're not my property, right? He said for the third time that week. She blinked. Then why feed me? Why warm me? Why give my children soft things and no conditions? Because that's called being decent, not foreplay. That word again. You use it like a shield. He sighed. No. I use it like a fence. Keeps intentions where they belong. She narrowed her slitted eyes. Your intentions confuse me. They do not stand up, but also do not lie down. Okay, that's not fair. My intentions have been very, very well behaved. My pants may be less so. Her ears twitched. Then they're the ones I must bind a loyalty knot with? No. You don't bind with pants. Or intentions. He groaned, rubbing his forehead. You don't know me anything. She stood abruptly, posture rigid. In my people's law, the one who shelters and feeds gains the right of return. I'm not returning you. I never owned you. You misunderstand. I now return to you. Again and again. I am bound. You let me in. You let me stay. You did not touch, so I choose. Choose what? You. He blinked. That wasn't an option. She tilted her head, ears perked. It is always an option. Your people are just terrified of yes. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. That might be the most accurate insult I've heard this year. She patted over, calm but purposeful. I was traded once. Sold once. Bartered twice. But the man who gave food without asking where I slept. I choose him. He held up a hand. Okay, but choosing me doesn't mean you belong to me. It means I will tear the skin from any female who tries to rub her scent on your neck. That's wildly specific. And a little hot. But still wrong. Her smile was all teeth. We will learn each other. Like languages? Like kinks? Aye, damn it. She sat beside him, hands folded in her lap, tail curling lazily. You fear claiming me. But I already claimed you. I just left the receipt on the bed. His face flushed. That's not how receipts work. Wasn't a paper one. He turned crimson. You're joking, right? She purred. Mostly. He stared at the ceiling. You know you've broken at least 8 assumptions I had about alien etiquette. You have not even seen my mating dance. Is it dangerous? To bystanders. I'll take that as a maybe. They sat in silence, the warmth between them no longer awkward, just confusingly comforting. Her children had stopped calling him meat dispenser and upgraded him to warm god, which he wasn't thrilled about. But he didn't correct them either. The transmission came a week later. A clip of him accepting the alien woman into his home, shared by her people. Thousands of messages. Some angry. Some curious. Some poetic. Most confused. The phrase, "He let her in," had become a trending doctrine on several planets. People were quoting it as philosophy, printing it on t-shirts, even weaponizing it in political debates. The act of compassion had gone viral, and somehow, he'd been turned into the patron saint of doing the bare minimum. This is insane, he whispered, scrolling through articles debating if refusing to touch a desperate woman was cultural respect or emotional warfare. Insane is good, she said behind him. It means they are paying attention. To what? That hospitality can be sexy. I did not mean for hospitality to be sexy. Too late. You made eye contact with my trauma and gave it cocoa. He dropped the tablet. I was just being decent. Which, in a galaxy where cruelty is the baseline, made you extraordinary. He sighed. I was hoping for ordinary. Quiet. Maybe mildly pathetic. You can still be pathetic. Just with a fanbase now. She leaned over, resting her head on his shoulder. They call it consent by kindness. A heresy in some cultures. A revolution in others. And here I thought I was just avoiding saying something inappropriate. You avoided yourself into heroism. He chuckled, finally relaxing. Well, what now? You continue feeding me. I continue choosing you. That simple? Nothing's simple. But it can be beautiful. He looked at her. Scarred, fierce, and oddly serene now. She wasn't a prize. Wasn't a trophy. She was just someone who'd survived. And still kept choosing, even when no one asked her to. All right then, he said, wrapping his arm around her waist. We'll figure it out. One awkward misunderstanding at a time. And perhaps tonight, you let me in again. He paused. Into your heart. He blinked. She smirked. Double meaning. I learned from you. You're terrifying. And hungry. Emotionally? Yes. Physically? Also yes. He grinned. Let's eat. Then we can discuss semantics. She purred. If by semantics you mean shared bathing. Nope. Followed by physical reassurance rituals. Stop naming things weirdly. Then perhaps one more night. For the children. He sighed in defeat, leading her to the kitchen. One more night. And then another. Until you stop counting. Sounds like a trap. It is. A warm one. And he didn't argue.